Hi, welcome to the Cincinnati Art Museum's Cam Look. Every Tuesday and Thursday, a staff member or volunteer will do a quick deep dive into works from the museum's collection and pose questions afterwards for discussion. My name is Emma Hensley Carr, and I am the museum's manager of tours and Cam Commons space. Today, we're going to be talking about Mayumi Oda's works that we have in our collection. Mayumi Oda was born in Tokyo, Japan in 1941 to a traditional Buddhist family. Both Buddhism and the restrictive role of women in Japan at the time of her birth had a significant impact on her development as an artist. As a child, Mayumi envied boys who had much more freedom to run around and play. She was frequently scolded to behave more like a girl. Her father taught her basic Buddhist principles like being in the moment and respecting herself and others. Mayumi's mother was very artistic and taught her to draw, hoping one day she could become an artist. Mayumi attended the Tokyo University of Fine Arts, where she studied fabric design and dyeing. During her time at university, she spent hours immersing herself in classical Japanese art at the Tokyo National Museum, where she fell in love with folding screens, pottery, and costumes of the No Theater. She met an American student named John Nathan, who seemed to understand her need for freedom from the narrow expectations for women in Japanese society. They married and after graduating moved to New York City, where Mayumi became acquainted with well-known writers, artists, and thinkers like Allen Ginsberg, Timothy Leary, Andy Warhol, William de Kooning, and Martha Rothko. She was exposed to the anti-war culture protesting America's involvement in Vietnam, which resonated with her, having grown up in Japan during and after World War II and the women's liberation movement. When she had her first son, she began to appreciate her strength as a woman and started creating images of voluptuous female forms like Gaia, the earth goddess, and ancient fertility goddesses. By the time her second son was born, she realized how important it was for her to be an artist, to not get lost in her role as a wife and mother. She learned that being an artist was an essential part of her being, and through developing goddesses, she herself became stronger and more positive. The goddesses she created were extensions of who she was and who she would like to be. She began in earnest to depict goddesses in paintings and prints, and to bring these goddesses to life, she conceived a silkscreen process composed of water-based glue and oil pencils. This system allowed her to produce layered effects much like the Japanese woodblock prints created in the popular style of Japanese art of the 17th through 19th centuries, known as yokai-wa. She turned angry, frightening male gods into joyful, playful female goddesses, referencing various religious traditions from Buddhism, Christianity, native Hawaii, ancient Greece, Rome, and more. Her depictions brimmed with whimsical organic shapes, strong graphic outlines filled with bright, lively hues, and a rich library of iconography. Traditional Japanese imagery from her student days started to appear in her compositions, known as kimono designs and ocean waves, reminiscent of the famous yokai-wa print, the Great Wave off the coast of Kanazawa. The wave reference is clear in this glyké print made from a painting on canvas called the Deep Blue 2. Her goddess works are filled with both traditional and more modern symbols. Let's look at two screen prints from Mayumi. Samansabadra is a Buddhist bodhisattva, a being who has obtained enlightenment but chooses to remain in the world to help others. Her equilibrium is so complete that she doesn't need to steer or even move the petals along. Her palms are joined at her heart in a gesture of harmony and balance. The rainbow is a sign of good fortune and symbolizes both impermanence and enlightenment. The white elephant symbolizes a tamed mind and appears to be doing most of the steering on the bike. The cabbages, which are Mayumi's favorite vegetable, are below the bicycle wheels to remind her of mandalas, which are graphic designs that represent the universe and are used as meditation aids. What other circles in this artwork might embody mandalas? The next work that we're looking at is Manjusuri on the bicycle. Manjusuri is the bodhisattva who personifies wisdom, usually depicted holding a flaming sword and a scripture. The scripture she holds here flutters in the wind, and her shawl billows like a sail propelling her forward. The lion running alongside the bicycle may represent the historical Buddha, whose voice was called the lion's roar for sharing the teachings of Buddhism. Mayumi has explained that her use of one of the oldest bicycle designs, known as the penny farthing, was borrowed from turn-of-the-century bicycle posters. The bicycle was a symbolism of liberation and freedom for women and those who could not afford horses or carriages. Some people have called Mayumi the Matisse of Japan. Here we have a painting, Romanian blouse, and a print, Madame Pompadour, from the museum's collection by French artist Henri Matisse. Why do we think people liken Mayumi to Matisse? Do you see any similarities between their art? How are they different? Japanese art has long fascinated and intrigued artists from both the East and the West, prompting new ways of doing, seeing, and making art. Mayumi's pantheon of goddesses cavort with the unfettered joy of being in the present, but are filled with clues to the past, reminding us of the rich artistic legacy of Japan. Thank you so much for joining me, and please check back in next week for a new work and a new conversation.